Okay.
Welcome, ambassadors, prisoners, and evil impulse-sucking parasites to episode 227 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 11th of October, 2017, and featuring the second in our highlights this season of The Master, The Mind of Evil, written by Don Houghton and starring John Pertwee as the Doctor, Katie Manning as Joe Grant, Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier, and Roger Delgado as the Master. I am Randy Ronson McCulloch, your host for this evening, and with me on the panel tonight is Mad Matt Winchell, our technical director.
Crystal Pepsi is delicious.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke, Doctor Who enthusiast.
Here I sit brokenhearted.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
The Dread Pirate Robot's here for your souls!
And Thomas Fireheart.
And thankfully, Disco has decided to stop crapping out on me.
Good.
Yeah.
Our normal host, Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, will not be on tonight as he did not watch the episode.
And he's got like a dozen other things going on all at once.
Shame! Shame!
Shame on Bill!
Shame!
Ring the bell, shame.
He should have to run naked through his town. Shame!
Shame.
Shame!
Shame.
Touch
All
the
right.
stone of shame.
All right, so
Also, Veeks, really quick, Veeksy also knew who that last person was in the opening.
on tonight's show, we have the news, and there is not a lot of news tonight. It's a slow night, and it's made even worse by the fact that one of our news sources, Cultbox, is not working. I actually had to change some of our links to not go to Cultbox because all we get's a white screen that says page okay.
We're finally going to the mirror, huh?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about that in a moment. The Rumor Mill is a new section, which will be after the news. And it's going to discuss rumors. And yes, there's an article from the Mirror on there. I'm going to discuss this because every other media site has latched onto it. So I'm going to discuss it. And I'll remind you, anything discussed in the Rumor Mill is merely rumor. It has not been confirmed.
Merely speculation.
To put this lightly, by the way, extra bit from the chat again. Thomas, Veeksy would have relations with your accent, apparently.
Following the Rumor Mill will be our Geek Talk segment, which is going to be a lot bigger than usual. Because there's been a lot. This is a premiere week, so we'll discuss all the premieres this week. Followed by another section I'm going to call my Rant of the Week. It is not going to be every week.
But it's rant-worthy.
It's something that I need to get off my chest. It's basically my equivalent of Peter Griffin's What Grinds My Gears.
I would also add that we could all add in on something if we have something in particular.
Okay, followed by the 5-minute challenge as usual, and then our review of the episode. I call it my Rant of the Week because I'm the one that generally is going to be
the bigger ranter.
Yes. I am the one that spent 2 podcasts talking about freaking River Song when we did Angels Take Manhattan.
So not enough about River Song then.
And no, tonight is not about River Song. Anyway, because we've got new sections and stuff, let's go ahead and go down to the news, and we're starting with birthdays. Starting with October 9th. And our first birthday for this week is Brian Blessed! One of our favorite people. We love Brian Blessed here. So we always include Brian's birthday. He was last seen around Christmas voicing Santa Claus for the reboot of the classic UK cartoon Danger Mouse. which
Ooh.
is available in the United States on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
He is also in 2 movies this year, Dark Ascension and Shed of the Dead. Both are in post-production as of the time I wrote the birthdays, which I think was Monday.
Shed of the Dead. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and did I mention he's also the narrator for the Lego Dimensions video game?
Oh,
Mm.
perfect.
So, yes, happy birthday, Brian. Next, we move forward to October 11th, and the birthday of Nicola Bryant, who played Perry during the Sixth Doctor era, and I guess the last couple episodes of the Peter Davidson era. Turned 57. I can't see much of what Nicola's been up to of late, meaning she's either on stage or not working, aside from doing Big Finish audio and other work for fanzines where she's voiced Perry and for a couple of like Doctor Who fanzines and stuff. Special audios, that kind of stuff. And that's really it for birthdays. Happy birthday, Nicola, and once again, happy birthday, Brian, the voice himself. All right. From
Fly, my
birthdays,
Hawkman.
we go to Lost Stories. Yep.
Yep.
Well, it is my sad duty to announce that we have lost actor Trevor Martin, who was the first to play the Doctor on stage. He has died at the age of 87. He appeared in Doctor Who in 1969 in the second Doctor story, The War Games.
Yep. One of those Time Lords that eventually appeared in what became Time Lord pajamas.
Mm-hmm. However, he is best remembered for playing the Doctor in a stage play based on the series Doctor Who and the Daleks and the 7 Keys to Doomsday, which ran for 4 weeks towards the end of 1974. It was the play was by Terrence Dicks, and set just after a generation of the 3rd Doctor, with Martin playing an alternate version of the 4th Doctor.
Before the 4th Doctor actually appeared on screen.
Yep.
Apparently.
Yep. His companions were played by Wendy Padbury and James Matthews. In 2008, the play was adapted for audio by Big Finish, with Martin once more taking the lead role.
Huh.
Oh, so he must be one of the alternate Doctors then.
I
Alternate
think
universe
that
ones.
I don't think that I don't think he's an Unbound Doctor. I think this was just them doing a not in their canon, interpretation of basically them taking a previous work and putting it out on audio just because of its popularity.
Still really interesting. He even has his own he has his own outfit and everything.
Well, yeah,
Looks
he was on
fairly
stage.
unique too.
Looks a little bit like the 8th Doctor's, but he did it first, so hey. And he was 87 when he went, so that's 7 years into a good run.
Yeah.
Did it actually say what he died of?
I don't think so. It lists some of his other performances, such as Coronation Street, Armchair Thriller, Inspector Morse, Zed Cars, of course, The Tragedy of King Richard II.
Nope, it just says he died, so we can assume that they basically died of old age.
Most likely, unless they say otherwise.
Once you get above 80, they really stop saying he died of a heart attack or, that. They just say he died peacefully in his bed, surrounded by family. All right, so...
Yes, Godspeed.
All right, so that's really it for the death day. We have a little bit of episode news, Tim.
Yes, the upcoming Christmas special, Twice Upon a Time, is going to be shown in movie theaters in the U.S. for one night only, courtesy of Fathom Events. It will be...
I'm sorry, the video suddenly started playing. I can't stop it. There. Jesus.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully that won't get us flagged.
It only ran for a couple seconds, so...
Yep.
Hopefully not.
That's normally why I don't use Entertainment Weekly, but unfortunately with Cult Box not being there, I didn't have a choice.
So Twice Upon a Time will be shown in theaters on Wednesday, December 27th at 7 p.m. local time. And tickets will be available beginning Friday, October 20th, and can be purchased through fathomevents.com or at participating theater box offices.
Knowing around here, that probably means that there's going to be a 7 and a 10 showing, because every time they have a showing like this for Doctor Who at Point Cinema, they fill up.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there's a scene right at 34 seconds where the first Doctor is giving the current Doctor such a dirty look. The dirty, grumpy first Doctor look.
All right, so moving on.
Yep.
According to the Radio Times, David Tennant is not going to be the only Doctor Who alumni to be a voice on DuckTales, the new DuckTales reboot. Apparently, he'll be joined by his former companion, Catherine Tate, who is going to play the character villainous Magica Dispel.
Oh.
So, who here remembers classic DuckTales?
I do.
Raise hand.
If you remember, Magica Dispel's original voice actress back in the 80s was the same woman that played Natasha on Rocky and Bullwinkle, and was always after Moose and Squirrel.
Yep.
And she is this Eastern European Grecian witch who wants Scrooge's #1 dime to cast this spell to give her ultimate power. It's going to be interesting to see how the 2017 interpretation of the character, because, they've taken a lot of secondary characters' personalities and completely reworked them. So we'll see how she comes out in this, and we'll see how she sounds with Catherine Tate helming, and if there's ever going to be a subtle Doctor Who nod, it's probably going to happen in interaction between the two of them.
Oh, probably. Mention something about blue box.
Or just a line that one of them utters that's, absolutely what they would have said between the Doctor and the companion, and they just look uncomfortably at each other.
Just look uncomfortably at each other and maybe even break the fourth wall for a split second and then go back to what they were doing.
All right, in other news, Den of Geek recently had a chance to talk with Karen Gillian about basically her work on Guardians of the Galaxy, her upcoming work in Infinity Wars, and a little bit about how she feels about, also about Jumanji, of course, which Aaron and I are thinking about going to see in December.
I haven't heard bad things yet, at least.
No, it looks interesting enough in the trailers, so. Anyway, they also talked a little bit about Jodie Whittaker, and how Amy Pond would react to meeting this new Doctor. And her thought is the fact that she would be very confused by that, she says. She'd have to remake all those little dolls. Yeah, I think she would kind of dig it, though. I think that she respects the Doctor a lot, and maybe she'd think it was kind of cool. So that's her thought about how Amy would take on that. Of course, Karen Gillian does have a pretty full plate these days, but still.
And she's still writing short horror things, isn't she?
Yeah, but she's one of those that have moved on from Doctor Who and has gone big.
Yeah, she's just doing everything these days, apparently.
Yeah.
She's writing little horror movies. She's acting in the Marvel movies. She's doing that, and the next thing.
She's acting in big title movies. I mean, she's in this. She's in Jumanji, next to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah.
And Jack Black.
And I forget who the other guy is again.
I didn't recognize him as much as
I know him. I just can't think of his name at the moment.
He's probably from somewhere. I just don't recognize him as much as I recognize the other.
He used to do a lot of 90s movies. I remember that much. Anyway.
That might be why I really wasn't a big movie person in the 90s.
There's a few things here and there.
I was more of a TV person back then. Anyway, so moving on to media releases, we have a confirmation of something we reported a week or two ago. Aaron?
So, we've got Shada gets an animated completion, finally. Sorry, my microphone's up. Okay, Shada was planned to be the celebratory end of the 17th series of Doctor Who. Acclaimed writer Douglas Adams had completed the script. Tom Baker's Doctor was at the height of his popularity, and the series had bigger audiences than ever before. However, it was not completely filmed. It was supposed to be the final story produced by Graham Williams. Before he was to hand over the production to John Nathan Turner. Unfortunately, there was a strike. It was a writer's strike, I believe, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was a writer's strike. I think it was more like a grip strike or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was something in the filming staff, a filming strike that happened. Either the directors or the grips or just an actor's strike or something. Either way, it completely killed all production on the BBC that particular year.
Well, they tried to salvage the serial. It's one of the famous missing serials. You'll see bits and pieces of it used for Tom Baker's part in the Fifth Doctor, or the Five Doctors 20th anniversary special. Or is it 25th anniversary special? Can't remember. Anyway, the Five Doctors, you'll see his parts from the serial used in that.
It was a technician's strike.
Technician strike.
Yeah, it was released on video in 1992 with Tom Baker narrating and trying to provide some linking material for the missing scenes, which was also re-released on DVD in 2013.
And it was remade in 2003 with Paul McGann.
Mm-hmm.
For Big Finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, Big Finish tried its hand several times at redoing it. And also it was and wasn't that an animated special too? Didn't we review that?
Yes, we did. It was made for basically Big Finish made it, and then the BBC took it and made a kind of what they did with Real Time, where it wasn't really full animation.
Animated stills, essentially.
Yeah, animated
like Golden
stills.
Book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to give it at least a quasi feeling of completion.
Yeah. Alright, so in 2013, unofficial fan version directed by Ian Levine was completed using animation to fill in the missing scenes. In this version, though a number of original cast members revoiced their parts, the Fourth Doctor was voiced by another actor. So...
this would be like attempt 5 or 6 then.
Yeah, attempt 5 or 6 to actually bring this story in some kind of completed form to release. The animation will feature the newly recorded voices of the original cast, including Tom Baker as the Doctor and Lalla Ward as Romana, performing the original script.
Yeah, now we originally reported this, like I said, a couple weeks ago, but we mentioned it was all rumor.
Mm-hmm.
Because it came to us from the Mirror. And we take everything that we get from the Mirror at the grain of salt. I think they have a 2 correct out of 5 stories, I think is about their average thus far.
Something like that.
It was big enough and odd enough that I thought it was worth reporting because I thought it might be the case. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't 100% convinced. This, however, is official. Mm-hmm. This came out of BBC Worldwide. So the Mirror had it right, but law of averages.
Yeah, so let's see here. Who's actually doing the animation for this? Is it the same people who did Power of the Daleks? Because they mentioned that.
I don't think so, because if you take a look at the stills at the bottom of the picture, that doesn't look like the same style.
No, not quite.
Yeah, it doesn't really say who the animation company is on. No, it's being produced by the Power of the Daleks team.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
They must just be using a new key editor or a key animator.
That and you're going to change the design depending upon what you're doing anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to obviously make most of these characters from scratch.
Yeah, and they are making it in color from the get-go this time,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
as opposed as making a black and white version and a color version.
That's because it
Yeah.
was naturally colored in the 70s.
Yeah, but just have to see how it does and how it compares to the original and the other stuff, because it looks like they're using some of the original scenes and then just adding the stuff. God, they really get Tom Baker's Popeye-ness going there.
I know, just
the
the
sleepy eye,
eyes
yeah.
staring into your brain, into your soul.
All right, so when does it say this is coming out?
14th of November?
It looks like that's going.
Oh, no,
that's actually
that's
going to be for
tickets.
the BFI South Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Digital download on the 24th of November, and DVD and Blu-ray on 4th of November. That is probably UK only.
So that
But
means
that
it'll probably
probably-
take a couple months before it comes over.
It'll probably be February, March before we see it.
I'm really surprised that they haven't tried releasing this in theaters, at least in the US. Or maybe they're waiting for it to.
Well, they're probably waiting for it to
seal
come closer,
the US
too.
release.
It's
Yeah.
either that or the Power of the Daleks that I thought they also tried to put that in theaters. Maybe that didn't do good enough.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see. Let's see
That's
if
a shame.
Fathom Events comes up with
Didn't-
something or not.
Didn't we go to go see Power of the Daleks?
You did. I had to work.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they released it. Actually, they probably could have released Power of the Daleks at a bad time, and that's why it didn't go over well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite possible.
Well, they release it in spring, and that puts it right around the new season? Oh wait, no, the
It
new
was a little bit
season
before it.
won't be until fall, will it?
Yeah, the new season won't be until fall.
Okay.
We're going nearly a year without Doctor Who after the Christmas special. So
Yeah, that's nothing new,
yeah,
especially in the Moffat era.
yeah, we'll deal with it anyway. That's really all we have to say about Shada, and that
Shada!
moves us on to our Big Finish news. Tim,
Yes, big
got
finish.
3
Yes.
articles, I think.
I do. So, out now is Doctor Who the Behemoth, the first of 3 new tales featuring the 6th Doctor with his companions Flip Jackson and Constance Clark, starring Colin Baker, Lisa Greenwood, and Miranda Raisin.
Yep. And there's a blurb there if you want to read that.
Yes. Bath, 1756, and a very dashing gentleman known only as the Doctor is newly arrived in town, accompanied by his lady friends Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Raymond. He's created a stir among the gentlefolk of Georgian high society, and a stir in the heart of merry widow Mrs. Theodosia Middlemint, rumor has it. They are not the only strangers from abroad causing tongues to wag, however. The mysterious Lady Clara, come from Amsterdam in the company of the noble Captain Vandermeer, has the whole of Bath agog. Who is she really? What is she really? But there's something terrible beneath the veneer of Georgian gentility. An awful and horror, as awful a horror as the Doctor has ever exposed, hidden inside Balsam's brassworks. Something that needs to be brought to light for the sake of all humanity.
All
Dun,
right.
dun, dun.
And this is written by Mark Platt, who is well known as a Doctor Who writer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is out now, I think.
Yes, it
Yeah.
says it's
Out now. Yep.
Yep, for £14.99 on CD, or $12.99 download. Or, of course, it's also part of the main range. So if you have a main range subscription, you should get this automatically.
Cha-ching.
All right.
Next one.
Next article.
Also, the War Master cast has been revealed today. The new War Master release, it will be out for Christmas to terrify you as we head into 2018, and Derek Jacobi is set to resume the role of the War Master. Big finish.
Yes. For those of you that don't remember Derek Jacobi being the Master, He's the Master for about 5 minutes in Utopia, where he plays Professor Yana for most of the effort. Yes, he plays Professor Yana for most of it and turns into the Master and gives us about 5 minutes of pure Master awesomeness. Absolutely sinister, absolutely diabolical, before he's forced to regenerate into John Sim. He's absolutely beautiful as the role. It's actually not the first time he's played the Master, because he also voiced the Master in the 2004 web series Scream of the Shalka.
I was gonna say Scream of the Shalka. Yeah.
Yes. So this is his third outing as the Master.
It's probably
And
the most official. Actually,
probably
the second
going
most
to be the-
official.
Probably going to be the most awesome.
Gonna be the best, one of the best ones. Yeah.
And joining Derek Jacobi will be Nicholas Briggs, Jacqueline King, Deirdre Mullins, Mark Elsta, Rachel Atkins, Hannah Barker, Johnny Green, Jacob Dudman, Emily Barber, Robert Dawes, Naris Hughes, and Jonathan Bailey.
Mm-hmm. Bill, if you're listening to us, we're freaking getting this.
We're handing them all of the money.
Because, God, you listen to that cast.
And by the way, Nicholas Briggs as the Daleks.
Jacqueline
Of
King,
course.
who we heard in, I think it was the War Doctor box set as, that freaking diabolical time lady.
She's a new character named Neas.
No, that might not be Jacqueline King then. My brain might be a little off.
Yeah, I think you might be thinking of somebody else.
I might be. Either way, I know the name Jacqueline King. Either way, that cast is still awesome. And it's available for pre-order now. It comes out in December. It's £23 on CD, £20 download. Beautiful Time War goodness.
Yep.
And that might make us change our schedule.
And Derek Jacobi is one of those guys. He's good in anything.
Oh, hell yes. Derek Jacobi is absolutely unbelievable as an actor. He's wonderful.
I'm trying to remember what else I've seen him in. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
And then I think you have one last article, a piece of news.
Yep.
Piece of news says James Dreyfus is the Master.
This is referring to the First Doctor adventures.
Yes, the First Doctor adventures. With the First Doctor adventures rapidly approaching its January release, playing the origins of a character that is beloved by many, a Doctor Who fan, James Dreyfus plays the first incarnation of the Master.
Now, we know Roger Delgado's Master is not the first Master. We assume more or less that he's somewhere near the end of the Master's lifeline. Because he's been on the run from Gallifrey the whole time the Doctor's been out in time and space. And the Doctor's been forced to change faces twice before he runs into the Master. So we can assume that, and the Master has been known to have to frequently change his face anytime his current face becomes too famous and too wanted. So we can assume that he's at least the 10th, if not the 13th Master. Somewhere in that end of your life bit. Because the last time we see the Master, he's pretty much just barely clinging on to life, so. So now we're going to get the original Master. Basically, the older version of the child we saw back in Utopia, or back in Sound of Drums.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of a little question as a newbie fan, has it ever been established that William Hartnell is the first Doctor?
It was not established originally, but the fact that they've now listed all the Doctor's regenerations, and that the Time Lord is restricted to 13 lives unless shit happens, which is what happened in Time of the Doctor, we can very well assume that Hartnell is the first incarnation of the Doctor.
I believe the five Doctors very heavily hinted that the first Doctor was the original
Yes,
Doctor.
yes. Actually, they didn't have to.
They did, yeah. By
Because
that point, they actually made it part of the context.
No, they hadn't. But the first Doctor there, Richard Hurnell, asked Peter Davidson, incarnation, and he goes, fourth, meaning he's the fifth Doctor. And
yeah.
So that pretty much establishes right there that he's the original, or that the first Doctor, as we know him, is the first Doctor.
Also, really quick from the chat, Vixie said that Jacqueline King was Don Noble's mom.
Oh, okay, that's where I know the name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just went looking it up and I was like, oh, it says it in the blood there.
Okay.
So yeah, totally missed that. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, that is going to wrap up our news, which we did in half an hour. So now we go to this new section called the Rumor Mill. And this is for stuff that we get from tabloid sources that we seem to think has some level of credibility. And the one we are coming is, once again, from the Mirror. And this one is talking about changes Chris Chibnall is making to the show. The thing that comes out of this article that we automatically expect is that Chibnall has ordered a new police box, a new console room, and an updated screwdriver. Well, that happens every time the new showrunner changes things.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about that since he just got a new screwdriver, and I kind of liked how that one looked. And I really kind of like the console room, so I'm a little bit annoyed by that. But
it's been a while since the outside has been updated, though.
Yeah, the upside hasn't been outdated since Moffat took over.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I never really cared for that extra weird insignia on the other door. I'm not sure where that came from.
No, that's the St. John's ambulance insignia, and it was on the
so
movie
essentially,
TARDISes.
It's a Moffat reference.
No, it's not. It was on the movie TARDISes back in Doctor Who and the Daleks and Daleks Invasion Earth. And I think it was in the show, but it was really badly faded on a couple of the doors. I mean, really badly faded, and then they just took it off completely.
Yeah, it's not been there for a long while, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be there, but
yeah.
Anyway, the news that is more questionable that comes out of this article is the fact that they're saying that the new series is going to run for 10 weeks instead of 12 or 13, but each program is going to last 60 minutes instead of 45. Now, again, this is coming from the Mirror, and their only quoted source is one insider.
Big grains of salt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I noticed.
And by grains of salt, we mean something big enough to be a baseball.
I noticed that several news medias have picked up this article, all citing the Mirror. And in fact, the web broadcaster What Travis Says, who's a huge Doctor Who fan, made a video about this recently, and I posted on his to calm him down, to remind him that this is the Mirror. And we don't know if this is true or not. Again, 2 for 5 on this. This could be right. This could be absolutely wrong. Think of it as a possibility, but not a definite until we hear anything from BBC's website. But it's quite possible we'll be looking at 10 90-minute episodes or 60-minute episodes, 45, in which case we're looking at Doctor Who becoming basically Game of Thrones length. Which, considering the fact that we know Chibnall wants to use a writing pool and make it more American style, means it's probably going to be.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It also would help with some of those episodes that feel like they're cramped and don't have enough room to actually do stuff.
Yeah, we've always thought that there's some that were too big to be a single 60-minute, but not big enough to be a two-parter. Yeah, but we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah,
I just wanted you to be aware of it, but it's not definite at this point.
Yep.
Okay.
The rumor mill, but nothing for sure.
And that's the rumor mill for this week. There's a whole bunch of other rumors out there, but none of them as substantial as that one. All right. So let's go to Geek Talk. Kind of our open forum for other science fiction fantasy shows. First thing I want to talk about is the DC premieres on the CW this week. Supergirl, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrows of Tomorrow. We can't talk about that one, but I have seen the first three. Supergirl, I thought, kind of had one of those emo starts that the CW verse is getting kind of used to. Where they basically inflicted all the trauma on Supergirl last time, and she's trying to cope with that. It was kind of made for a weak start for this week's season. The big character is that they are getting the guy that used to play Nathan Petrelli on Heroes and played General Glenn Talbot on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming in as the new corporate villain on Supergirl. So he's going to make kind of an interesting... what happened to the other guy that was playing the bad guy last season, I don't know. I think he got too notoriety. Flash is still annoying me. The season finale last time played with time continuity and then used causality and then ignored it 5 minutes later, which pissed me off. Within 20 minutes of the show, they completely undid the continuity that they ignored causality to do, just in order to have a dramatic finale. That's how you piss me off.
That's also how you punch your show in the dick.
Yes. I might start liking it better after this because they're going back to the usual with Barry and the team. Just the fact that this whole thing about, spoiler alert, Flash getting stuck in the Speed Force prison that they made halfway through there but negated the reason for making it time-wise pissed me off. So I'll see how they deal with that. Legends of Tomorrow, however, was a fun little romp. Our friend Arthur Darvill is back as Rip Hunter, only he's basically made a corporation of time agents to take care of time deviations and basically fired the Legends. And they didn't take that well. He fired the Legends because they're a bunch of screw-ups. And then they proceed to prove that they need him by screwing up so far that they screw the entire thing 180 and do it right. It was a fun little bit, and I really like the characterizations on Legends, so I enjoyed that one.
You bumbled it so hard that you actually saved it. What did you do?
Gotham. Gotham is progressing. We're getting to see Bruce Wayne running around in proto-Batman. Basically body armor, but without the bat symbology or anything. So he's on his process of becoming the Batman, even though he still looks like he's 12.
Then again, they underaged a lot of characters, and then overaged a few others.
Yeah,
it's
but
weird.
He's one of those characters. He was about the right age for when Bruce Wayne lost his parents.
Yeah.
The thing is, he then is supposed to go on this huge 10-year training trip before coming back and becoming a vigilante. Unfortunately, that would mean he'd be gone from the show since it focuses on Gotham. So they're trying to abridge that. So now he's basically turning into proto-Batman, and we're seeing some stuff on that. It is interesting. This is AU, so it's not like anything's totally wrong. It's really nice to see Sean
its own
Pertwee.
Continuity anyways, so yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's nice to see Sean Pertwee trying to deal with this in exasperation, really. He does have a line there that still made me think he would be a great successor to his father. I really enjoy his Alfred more than I've enjoyed the one. Batman v Superman. He was one of the better parts of that movie. The Orville. By the way, chime in, guys, if you've seen any of this stuff.
The Orville I've seen half an episode of.
Okay, the Orville just had its 5th episode, I think. And 90% of the episode was fine until the ending, where they did the exact same thing the Flash did. They upheld continuity in one breath and then completely ignored it for the second half. And of course, this immediately pisses me off. The all the episodes.
Okay. You just clipped out again, by the way. It's like the second time in the last couple minutes. Anyway. Continue.
Sorry. The writer is the person to blame for this is the writer, Seth MacFarlane, who is he's written all the episodes for the Orville thus far.
He's a comedian writer. He's not a sci-fi writer.
Yes, even though you need to know the source for which you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
For writing a light comedy sci-fi, you've got to be able to put your feet in both worlds. And sci-fi geeks will get you.
They will pin your ears if you screw up too much in one episode.
Yes. Exactly. And with the Orville, what they did is it involved a person from the future coming back, saving them from a disaster, and then saying, well, to uphold the timeline, we're going to take you to the future, which they basically go, no, destroy her method of getting to the future in the past, which erased her from existence, yet somehow they were still saved from this accident.
Wait.
Yeah. That's a plot hole. That's a time fuck up.
When Red Dwarf can outthink you on how time works.
Yes.
It's a paradox.
Yes. You basically incited the grandfather paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Or a variation of it.
A variation of it,
the
yeah.
You know the grandfather paradox. Man comes back in time, meets his grandfather, gets in a fight with him as a young man, and kills him. Except, of course, if he killed his grandfather, his father's never born. If his father's never born, he's never born. And if he's never born, how can he go back in time and to
kill his grandfather? Yeah.
Same thing here. If a person comes back in time, saves you from a ship-destroying accident, takes you to the future, or tries to take you to the future, and you blow up their method of travel, so they've never come back to the past, how can they save you from that accident?
Fixie says multiple universes, and I don't agree with that either.
No, that really does not work for many reasons. Because this isn't a choice where you have the universe dividing on a choice. This you literally wind up with time in a Mobius loop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good thing, because at that point your universe is fracturing into two universes which are trying to occupy the same space in space-time, which matter cannot occupy the same space.
And everything goes kablooey.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Yeah,
I believe Back to the Future mentioned that one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Who's mentioned it a few times too, although it's referred to as the web of time collapsing. Either way, not a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my issue with that episode of the Orville. I'm still looking forward to that one. Star Trek Discovery. Oh my god, the fucking Klingons are just pissing me off. It's not their makeup.
Although I hear that doesn't help a lot of people. Apparently they sound really muffled in their makeup.
That's what's causing the issue, is the over prosthetics in their voice. Really makes it hard for them to deliver Klingon dialogue. And they deliver all of the Klingon scenes are in Klingon dialogue.
And also apparently they sound like they're very heavily scripted, like they're still reading off the script sometimes.
Yes. Okay, if you take a look...
And you can barely hear them.
Mm-hmm. They are talking, talk, ma, talk, ma. They're doing it very evenly paced.
Mm-hmm.
It's like early Daleks.
Yes, very much so. But, there's no really emotion in what they're saying. If you go back to freaking Deep Space Nine or Star Trek 3 and you listen to Klingons talk, those guys took the time to memorize their lines phonetically so they could deliver them with the proper emphasis.
Beesh.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's almost no emotional inflection in their voices. There's no real pacing to their dialogue, and they sound like they all have mouths full of marbles.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not working for me. Plus, their new costumes aren't half as intimidating as their old costumes.
Yeah, their old
Their
costumes were more
stances.
interesting.
Their stances, their mannerisms are not Klingon.
Hmm.
They're not anywhere near as aggressive as the old Klingons.
Yeah, their body language is very passive, not the hulking, dominating forms that we're used to seeing.
It's really kind of throwing the show because that's like the main secondary plot is these Klingons on a mission, and it's just
There's no sense of danger.
it's just dragging the show to me. It's just absolutely.
I've been hearing that, and I've also been hearing that apparently there's a lot of outcry of Mary Sue about the main character.
I'm not getting that much yet.
Yeah,
and
not
you
that
know
much.
me, I'll get a Mary Sue right away. Some of her backstory is a little bit hinky.
Yeah.
That would tick those Mary Sue boxes, but she's delivered it poorly.
That's also another third thing I heard is that a lot of the crew, at least in the first couple episodes, were really stupid.
There's been a lot of really dumb mistakes made by crewmen, but
Oh yes, especially in the last episode. Let's prod the bear in front of us and see if it bites our head off. Oh my god, it bit my head off. Oh, I didn't you tell me this would happen.
Oh dear God, I'm bleeding in my eye.
Yeah, the tactical person sent with the main character to try to figure out this alien they found basically goes, well, I'm going to piss it off and see what it does. Pretty much tries to be freaking Steve Irwin on its ass.
And guess what? It stingrayed him.
Yeah, it killed him. I'm like, well, you just won your Darwin Award for the week. And that's the better plot line of Discovery. So
did he have a red shirt?
It's like, I'm looking forward to that scene. S4 more Klingons.
I'm not that impressed with what do you call it either. I'm not impressed with the captain. Her new captain.
He's a dick. He's a major dick.
Yeah, he is. Find me a way to turn this creature that's horribly dangerous into a weapon. Okay.
Yeah, he's kind of win the war at any cost, kind of. He's
I probably heard he's a shadowy undercover guy anyways, so yeah.
I'm not really getting that much. I thought that was the case at first. But no, I don't think so. But he is definitely winning the war at any price.
This guy here, by the way, for folks that don't know. I've seen enough images and a few reviews. I know who he is.
All right. But so Discovery is starting to peter. It had a strong start, other than the Klingons, but it's quickly becoming more Klingon-y, which we don't want.
At least not these Klingons. They're not that much of a Klingon.
The storyline is starting to flag and go, what the fucky? Also, the fact that when the ship engages this new secret drive they have, the saucer portion of the ship works like a flywheel. I'm like, no. No, there's no point to that other than the fact of sheer stupidity. So, yeah. I'm starting to lose faith in Discovery, not that I had much in the first place.
Yeah.
Moving on, Aaron and I had our triumphant return to the movies yesterday. Now that Aaron's streaming on Monday instead of Tuesday, and we went to go see Kingsman: The Golden Circle, the sequel to the 2014 film Kingsman: The Secret Service, which I freaking love. This one was not as good as The Secret Service, but it was still a good popcorn flick.
A serviceable movie. It was serviceable.
It drops you headfirst right into the action with stuff happening literally within seconds of the opening in a huge fight. And then it starts to drag a bit during the middle of the film to pick up at the ending. The major thing about this one is the fact that the Kingsmen wind up in a bad situation, and the main character and Merlin, a holdover from the original, have to go to the United States and basically contact their sister organization, the Statesmen. Who, whereas the Kingsmen operate with their cover of being a tailor's shop, The Statesmen operate with the cover of being a distillery. So, yeah.
Booze.
We go from the proper British, who's really the proper British urbanite, who's really a spy, to the American redneck, who's really a spy.
Yeah.
I mean, the main operative that winds up working with our character basically looks like Burt Reynolds. And
Actually, I think I've heard of him referred to as Burt Reynolds, so yeah.
And his specialty weapon is a monofilament lasso.
That is electric.
Electrified monofilament.
Yeah. It turns into a lightsaber lasso thing.
This is Kingsman, so it is kind of over the top. The bad
a lot
guys
more fight scenes.
The bad guys in particular tend to be over the top as well. The one from Secret Service was played by Samuel L. Jackson and was a millionaire tech cell phone dealer that had decided to end the world and create basically his own little eugenics project with the survivors, but they stopped him before he could. This one is a drug dealer who has a passion for the 80s version of the 1950s.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is psychotic enough that in her secret base somewhere in Southeast Asia, she has like rebuilt 50s style bowling alleys and theaters and stuff, and a diner with a giant meat grinder that if somebody disappoints her, she grinds them into hamburger and cooks them.
Oh. So she's also a cannibal.
I'm not sure if she eats it or if she makes other people eat it.
Yeah, she we've only seen her make other people eat it. We've also seen her activate her robot dogs Benny and Jet.
She also kidnapped Elton John and forced him to perform for her.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Elton John was a part of this movie too.
Which led to some of the funniest scenes. And it's like I said, it's a great popcorn movie, but don't expect any Oscars from it. Out of a scale from 1 to 9, I would give it about a 6.
Isn't that usually a 1 to 10?
Remember, I use the same system Richard Russell uses.
Oh, that's right.
So you've got 1 through 3 being movies you would never recommend to anybody. 4 through 6 being movies that you would probably recommend but not full price. And then 7 through 9 being movies that you probably would pay full price for.
So high end of mediocre.
Yes. I mean, it's on the border of being a 7, but I think it's...
Not quite there.
I think the Secret Service was like an 8 in my book. And this was like a couple steps below. Anyway, you had a little bit of news.
Yes, I have a little bit of news. So, just today we had an actual update for Friday the 13th, the game, to which they decided to pre-release the upcoming patch that was supposed to come out on Friday the 13th, because October and Friday the 13th. Essentially, they have added one new map, the Jarvis House, which consists of 2 big cabins, which is unusual. Usually it's only been one big cabin and lots of little ones. And also, they have released the Friday the 13th Part 4 Jason, which, by the way, I have stats here. He can run, has weapon strength, and can break down doors faster. Does not have water speed, and slow to teleport, and is really bad at traps. Also, they have unleashed the new camper, which is Mitch Floyd, who is a hippie. Very good composure, which means that he can handle stress well. He's really good at repairs and has a bit of stealth, but otherwise is weak and slow and has next to no stamina. So they've decided to release it early, stating that they decided that they wanted to pre-test servers with it and see how things went.
Okay. So I think that's all the geek talk that we had.
Oh,
I have
also,
something to say.
actually, I want to add really quickly. I actually did patch it and tested out the new map, and actually really is nice. I like it better than the other ones so far. Anyway,
Yeah,
Tim.
what? Hmm?
Yes, I just wanted to say that this past weekend I was at New York Comic-Con,
Woohoo!
and so quick thing, I went to a panel with Peter Capaldi. They had a Q&A, and he mentioned that he wished he could have been in an episode where the Doctor goes back in time to the 60s and meets Jimi Hendrix. And the story would be that Jimmy is trying to find his sound, and the Doctor uses the technology from the TARDIS to invent the wah-wah pedal.
Huh.
That could be amusing.
Yes, and then they use it to fight the flower people, who are literally flower people.
Oh God. Okay, I'm not sure how much of this
Speaking
he
of
was
the
serious
hippies.
about.
Also, I saw the premiere of the new Batman animated movie that's coming out from Warner Brothers Animation, Batman vs. Two-Face. It was one of the last. It was the last thing that Adam West worked on. It starred Adam West and Dick Grayson, and Two-Face was played by William Shatner.
Don't you mean Adam West and Burt Ward?
Adam West and Burt Ward, yeah.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say Dick Grayson's the character. Burt Ward was the actor that played Dick Grayson
Yeah.
with Adam West.
Okay. Adam
And-
West and Burt Ward.
And William Shatner plays Two-Face?
Yep. Known
Yep.
that for a while now.
Hmm.
I'm trying to imagine Two-Face Shatnering.
And also, by an astonishing coincidence, this is a little minor spoiler. The movie begins with Doctor Hugo Strange, not Dr. Stephen Strange, Dr. Hugo Strange saying, "I've invented a machine that drains the evil out of people." Now, does that mean, or does it sound familiar?
Yes.
Wah, wah,
I have
wah.
invented a machine that drains the evil out of people. I have made it in conjunction with my friend, Professor Keller. Yes.
He's out of town right now. He'll be back though.
The thing is, though, they should have gotten Hugo Strange to be played by George Takei. Because I can tell you this, I've watched a lot of Gotham. The Hugo Strange they have in Gotham is a George Takei sound-alike. It's like if I knew the fact that George Takei wasn't that young anymore, I would have thought it was George Takei. But okay,
alrighty.
I'm still trying to get my brain out of Shatner trying to Two-Face. So, Batman, I will decide your fate with a flip of the coin.
Oh no, not other coins.
All right. So now I want to go into my rant section. I'm not sure how long this will take, but I'll try to keep it down to 5 minutes.
Okay, doke.
The topic of today's rant is how not to run a marketing campaign. And the focus of my rant is McDonald's. As you may or may not know, on last Saturday, McDonald's brought back a dipping sauce that has been absent from their things for 20 years. They hyped this particular thing on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter. They did a lot of stuff. It is a sauce that people had been demanding since it came up as a topic on April 1st in the season 3 premiere of the show Rick and Morty. The sauce in question is the Szechuan dipping sauce that was originally part of the promotional release for Mulan. McDonald's hyped that it was going to be a super limited time release and that it was only going to be available that day.
And at certain McDonald's.
And at limited McDonald's. McDonald's completely blew this particular release.
Mm-hmm.
The sauce was available in quantities ranging from about 10 to 20 packets per store, with some stores that were on their list not receiving any at all.
Damn.
Mind you, the
Good lord.
lineup for these stores were in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
People lined up at one McDonald's in California, out the door, down the block, past the next block, around the corner, down the block, and around the third block, and they were still lining up.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Yeah, there
People
were about
people
100
were
people.
literally dancing on their counters, freaking out when the sauces ran out, and people were also charging other people $10 to dip a nugget into their sauce.
Yes.
Yeah, there was what do you call it? There were about 100 people lined up over by our McDonald's, according to one of my coworkers here.
According to their website, there were 15 locations in Wisconsin that would receive the sauce. In reality, there were 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
1 in Madison, 2 in Milwaukee.
Jesus Christ.
And they each only received about 12 packages each. And
Mhm.
yes, their numbers were huge. And some of these other places that were supposed to receive them, basically people lined up for, and they said, no, we never received sauce. We have a few posters, but we didn't receive sauce. And some of the places that did receive sauce didn't know what to do with it because nobody told them what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is a failure of a company from the bottom up. The marketing people overhyped it. The manufacturers didn't make enough. The distributors didn't get it to the right location, and the managers weren't. The upper managers didn't tell the middle managers what was going on, so they couldn't tell the employees.
Basically, this company had one job.
And they screwed it up.
Yeah.
Now, police had to be called to several McDonald's
Because people were freaking their shit.
because people got so pissed that they got violent.
Mm-hmm.
Following all of this, a spokesman from McDonald's came out and said, yes, we deliberately made the sauce super rare like this because we wanted it to be collectible. We wanted it to be in demand. So they basically did what Nintendo did with the Amiibo. Deliberately made it in piss poor quantities so people would sell it. This
And
is
even
not...
Nintendo didn't go that bloody far. Jesus.
And actually, Nintendo has reversed on that, and they've actually been slowly re-releasing even the first stringers.
This is a stupid marketing decision on any level. Because they don't profit for it. Think about this. The purpose for getting this dip was to promote their new Buttermilk Crispy Chicken Strips.
Oh, I've noticed
You
those
had to
too.
purchase the crispy strips to get the dipping sauce. That means they're only selling 11 to 12 of those per store as part of this promotion. If they had had this in larger quantities, they could have sold hundreds of these orders. They could have run out of strips at these stores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the only people that's actually making money from this are the freaking people that got there early, flipped their sauce, and is selling it for $1,000 a unit on eBay. Yes, $1,000
For one
a
dipping cup.
1 ounce cup of sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to tell you how insane that is?
And people are actually probably fighting over it right now.
Now, McDonald's did come out a day or two later and said, okay, we screwed it up, but I tell you what, this winter, we're not saying when, we will actually have this as a regular item for more than a day, for a standard period of time. We will have Szechuan sauce available at all their stores.
They'll probably bring it back just long enough to sell it and then slowly peter it out as interest goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Either they're doing this as an apology for fucking up so bad, or this was all part of their Grand High marketing scheme.
It
One,
would
two.
not surprise me if that was their plan the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, this is a really poor way of doing customer relations.
And actually, now that I think of it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was their way of their plan the entire time, and this was their official testing the waters to make sure that people were actually at all interested.
Yeah, they should have known better.
Yeah.
You have a rabid fan base of fans who have a reputation for going toxic. And you basically invite them in to try the sauce and then stiff them. And then say you're going to try to do this later. If this was part of your plan, really stupid plan, McDonald's. Because they're still pissed.
They're still pissed, and they might not actually come back.
Yes.
Yeah. God, now that I think about it, there was a video that showed up somewhere where it was like someone threw it on the ground and there were people going after it, even though it was on the concrete. Like, what the shit, people?
This was fucking insane. This was insanity on everybody's level. It was insane by McDonald's to deliberately try this 10 packages only release. And it was the reaction by the fans was also pretty extreme. But even so, if this was your mastermind plan, McDonald's, this is the biggest fuck you to your customers that you've ever done. And I hope you're happy with yourself because you've made a lot of enemies this week.
How much you want to bet season 4 of Rick and Morty that they do something around McDonald's that they don't like?
I don't know. We know the
Some had
fact
to
that
face
Dan
them.
Harmon's not above making comments about this. But the fact is that season 4 is probably not going to be for a year or two.
It'll be a
And
while, yeah.
Dan Harmon's already pissed off at the fan base anyway for making some very nasty remarks towards their female writers. So,
Jesus.
yeah. Anyway, that concludes my rant for this week. We'll see if I have one for next week or not, but I just had to get that off my chest because that really pissed me off. All right.
Stopwatch.
5-minute challenge.
Yep.
Who wants to describe this episode in 5 minutes or less?
Last time was Bill's. Was I before Bill?
I think so.
So it's you two, unless Randy wants to do it.
I haven't done it in a while. I know that.
You want to do it?
I think I can do it.
All right. I have the stopwatch ready.
Give me just a moment here.
Mm-hmm.
to
VXC
wet
comments Mulan sauce for the lol face.
All right.
All right, ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So the doctor goes to Stagmore Prison in order to see what first appears to be an execution. It's treated like an execution. The prisoner obviously doesn't want to go. The fellow prisoners are raising a riot. And everything seems to act like it's a typical execution. But it's not. The doctor's there to witness the execution of what's called the Keller machine, a device which is supposed to remove negative impulses from the mind of the patient. It is a device that he is very leery of because he really doesn't like the concept of messing with the human mind. And during this treatment process, something does go wrong, and the patient screams and collapses unconscious. Apparently, there was some kind of spike in the machine, and too much bad impulses were taken out. He's taken to the infirmary, and the doctor has several words with the people behind it. Unfortunately, the creator, Professor Keller, is not there. He wants to talk to the Brigadier about this, but the Brigadier is having problems of its own. UNIT is running security for a peace conference for many of the world leaders, in particular the United States and China, who are at odds with each other. The Chinese ambassador, or the liaison for the Chinese ambassador, a captain whose name escapes me, but is a female Chinese delegate, is demanding some assistance because some papers of the ambassadors have gone missing, and she is blaming UNIT for failing to provide security. After doing this, we see her go out pull said papers out of her in her pocket, burn them, and leave them in a rubbish bin. This is the beginning of the issues, as we also see as she turns her head that she has a small round device, oddly similar to a Dalek bump, but not, behind her ear. Unit tries to handle this on its own without the doctor, but things get worse as the Chinese ambassador is murdered. At this point, the Brigadier decides he has to call in the doctor. The doctor, not wanting to leave there until he can try to convince people to shut down the Keller machine, eventually realizes he does have to go back to the Brigadier and leaves. Meanwhile, Stegmore Prison gets a new inmate, one who's scheduled for the next treatment on the machine. But somebody's assisting him and smuggles a gun into his cell, which he then uses to basically try to take over the prison. The prison has lost communication for a while, and Joe eventually helps him get recaptured, but only until Professor Keller, who is revealed to be the Master, shows up and completely takes over the prison, holding Joe prisoner. This is part of his diabolical plan to steal the Thunderbolt missile, a nuclear-powered missile filled with gas. Really? Seriously?
I know.
And use it to blow up the peace conference because he's simply that evil. The Master wants to use the prisoners to do this, and because he was disguised as a phone repairman, a disguise he had previously used in the last serial, he's able to tap Unit's phones and discover when stuff is going on and where. The Chinese girl is actually one of his operatives whom he has hypnotized, and the bump behind her head is access to the Keller machine, which is acting odd. The doctor goes back to Stangmore Prison and is captured by the Master, who wants to use the doctor to help him control the machine, which is getting increasingly out of control. Unfortunately, the machine has mind of its own, and pretty soon learns how to teleport across rooms and starts killing people willy-nilly, because it's a freaking evil machine. Meanwhile, the Master sets out with his crew to take control of the missile from Mike Yates, who was in command of the missile team. Mike Yates is the only unit member to survive that particular attack.
Benton.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Benton was knocked unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
He did survive. He was, however, knocked out. Yates was the only one that remained conscious and was able to track them back to where they were going. However, for the longest time, he was out of radio communication. The Brigadier eventually realizes the fact that the missile, the people out there were using a Black Mariah. I think was told that by Benton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whom they recovered and bandaged up his head, and that leads him to Stangmore Prison, where he learns that there's a bunch of secret tunnels running in and out of the prison that would help him get access, which he promptly ignores, deciding instead to do a frontal assault. Brilliant, Brigadier. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, they actually had some of the guys come up the back anyway.
Which he didn't need to do by then, because he had control of the front gates. Was not really the greatest plan for the Brigadier. Anyway, he comes in, gets involved, manages to save the doctor in the nick of time from being killed by the lead prisoner. And they go off, informs the Brigadier that the missile's not there. At about this time, Mike Yates calls in, and it's at an airfield. And they basically lead the assault on the airfield, manages to get it before the missile is launched and get it to self-destruct. Meanwhile, the doctor discovers the fact that the prisoner that was treated before and has no evil impulses in his brain and the mind of a child actually sedates the critter that is inside the Keller machine. And how did they manage to destroy the machine? I forget.
That's part of the ending.
Yeah.
I'm at the ending.
They take it with them to confront the Master.
They take it with them to confront the Master.
They leave the machine next to the Master and leave him to it. They put the device back into the missile so it'll explode on the ground.
Okay. I couldn't remember how that ended. My brain just completely farted on the machine part of it.
The guy that helped negate the machine's effects was killed by the Master, I believe. Oh yeah, he was ran over by the truck that was being driven by the Master. The Master got away with his device to fix his
His dematerialization circuit, which the Doctor stole in the previous serial.
Yep. So he can leave Earth again.
And then the Doctor has one last the Master calls the Doctor one last time to gloat that he can now travel through time and space again, and the Doctor's stuck on Earth. That part I remembered.
Yeah.
All right. So we're at 7 minutes 25 seconds.
It's a 6-parter.
Yeah, it's like 3.5 hours long. So.
Okay. So let's talk about. Ooh, I forgot to do that.
Roll them dice. Roll the beautiful dice footage.
Roll that beautiful dice footage. I remembered that, and then I remembered having to remove Bill from it because Bill was not in there. All right, so the first person up would be Matt.
Oh, I get to say what I liked.
Yes.
I liked that the plot actually tied in on itself really well for the most part. Because of the Master's involvement in all these different plans, he actually helps make everything become one cohesive whole by the end of the story.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the branches out so much you'd be worried that it's a hodgepodge mess, but because of the Master's involvement, it actually kind of works.
All right. Okay, so Aaron, you're next.
I liked the down to earth, like literally down to earth feel of the overall serial. Is that you didn't have Daleks flying around, you didn't have Autons, terrorizing the populace. It was very kind of subdued. It was basically taking a look at humanity as being its own destructor, basically.
To an extent, I mean, the Master was still there pulling the triggers, but he was rather sedate in what he did.
It was very kind of subtle and a little bit more cerebral.
Other than the Keller machine itself, most of what he did was pretty conventional.
Actually, it's almost box standard for a spy movie.
Well, that's kind of the Third Doctor era in a nutshell. I mean, the Third Doctor is basically John Pertwee, James Bond. His whole Doctor is pretty much a Bond film.
Yeah, I like the fact that you didn't necessarily need aliens walking around and just destroying everything. You could have just regular human enemies, but they still come off as fairly menacing, and the action still comes off as pretty intense. So, yeah.
Okay. Thomas, how about you?
The funny thing was my go-to was taken by Matt. So.
He does it so well, though.
But as a backup, I genuinely like the fact that they bring up, it's a weird issue to bring up in Doctor Who, but generally like the treatment of prisoners, like the whole, you think this is going to be an execution and the Doctor's all against, like, despite all the horrible things these people must have done to end up in prison, he's still like, there's still that moral thing there where it's like, even though they've done all that, messing with their minds and that is like way too far.
Yeah, using them as guinea pigs isn't quite right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim?
I really liked the way they balanced the ensemble in this episode. How it wasn't just the Doctor one-man show, but they had things for the Brigadier and Joe to do.
And Mike Yates.
They all had their own parts without taking away from the Doctor.
Yes, it's pretty good. Well, what did I like about the episode? that wasn't already taken. Honestly, I think the supporting cast did a really good job in this episode. And I'm not talking your normal supporting cast. I'm talking about the episode players. Most of them, particular the warden, the lead prisoner, what was his name, Mailer?
Yeah, Mailer.
And the guy that got his brain drained, all played their roles particularly well. And it helped it be it helped turn it into a more believable serial.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what didn't you like about the episode? And Matt, you're first.
Didn't like about the episode. I'm trying to think of anything in particular that struck me out. Actually, you know what? One thing that did bug me just a little bit, at least they eventually did it on their own, but the unit just literally forgetting that the doctor is even supposed to be around, and forgetting about the fact that he's supposed to be off of this prison for so long. You'd think they'd start to worry about him after at least a few hours and try and get a hold of him.
Yeah, well, probably their thought is the doctor can take care of himself. And this
To
is
some
like the
degree,
one time he couldn't. Yeah.
But the doctor's also known to get up to his neck in trouble that he can't get out of once in a while, too.
All right.
So,
Aaron?
I didn't like overall. I guess I didn't really like the length. It did seem to kind of drag on a bit. Because there wasn't anything really flashy going on. It was very just kind of subdued and very kind of an ordinary setting and everything. There wasn't really a lot of distraction for you. There was at least some action, but it's a good thing we broke it up into like 2 viewings. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd be able to pay attention to it all that well.
I know I was a little distracted at the tail end of the episode because I was trying to eat and watch at the same time.
I bamfed through the whole thing in one sitting like it was crack.
I probably could have, Matt. The thing is, we watched most of it prior to the Monday stream.
Oh.
And we watched 4 episodes, and then that happened, and then Aaron was too tired and went to bed, and we watched the remainder the next morning. And I was trying to eat my lunch, and I think I was trying to get all my pills sorted, and that's why I missed the ending. All right, Thomas, how about you?
It's funny because I'm not sure if mine would count as like. Oh, actually, no. What? Yeah. It's more of an overall thing. When Mike Yates gets shot, the continuity after that seems to be he's perfectly fine, even though he's got shot through the hand.
And then he gets shot again, and he's still fine.
Yeah, like it. So many things are like, well, wait a minute. If his hand's stuffed, how is he able to grip so tight on the motorbike, and then all this other stuff that happens, and it's like, okay, that's.
Mike Yates has the luck of a cat. And apparently, he only gets minorly scratched and plays dead.
He's like invulnerable until the green death, and then
he's all kinds of vulnerable.
Suppose he has a mental breakdown at the end. Anyway.
Yeah.
I thought the 3 plot lines, the Keller device, the prison riot, and the nuclear missile thing could have been balanced a bit better.
Yeah.
Yes, it was all tied together by our good friend the Master, but still, like, getting to that point, they could have, like, evenly distributed the time devoted to each of those things a bit more well, I think.
They could have, but they also didn't need to focus too much on the rocket until it became a main playing piece of the story. So I can understand why some of the unit stuff got skipped for a bit.
All right, so my problem with the episode is the Master's plan is so damn convoluted with such a vague reward. I mean, it really boils down to steal missile, launch missile at the conference, start war, question mark, profit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
actually
basically
question mark world domination, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, profit is world domination. It's just how he gets from there to there. There's nothing in the middle. So.
And even the Doctor calls him on his bullshit because he's like, you do realize you can't leave the planet, right?
Yeah, it's kind of an it's an absolutely asinine plan, and he goes through 80 bazillion levels of convoluted complicatedness to achieve it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this was the same argument that the Doctor used last serial to get him to stop doing what he was doing. The whole, hey, you can destroy the world now, but you'll also blow up with it. This never occurred to you?
Again?
Like the last time you tried to do this?
I mean, the Master is typically known for his short-sightedness sometimes. He will,
especially when he gets blood hungry.
He will, use an alien race to achieve his goals, and not seeming to have the plan for when the alien race does its sudden but inevitable betrayal. But you can't do that. I'm the Master. I will. Yeah.
You're a loony.
All right. So, best scenes. Matt.
Oh, best scene. I'm trying to think which one I want to go with. I think I will go with I'm trying to remember particulars. Actually, I think I'll go with the scene I think it was in the second episode where he gets a close encounter with the machine again. I think it might have been when he was trying to do something to dampen its abilities. And you actually get a more clear image than just the flames. You actually start hearing voices, and sure enough, it's Daleks, and then you see Cybermen and all these other things. Just a huge hodgepodge of horrific monster references from Doctor Who.
You hear Daleks, you see Cybermen, and Ice Warriors.
Oh, that's right. There's Ice Warriors, and I think there was one or two other things really quick. I think there might have been a Yeti in there.
Possibly.
In that hodgepodge.
But yeah, that was later on. That was when he was tied. That's when the Master tied him to see.
Oh, that's right. Actually, yeah, that when the Master tied him in like episode 4 or 5. Then you got an even bigger amount of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one you just saw the flames, and that was actually a shout out to Inferno. Which, by the way, was written by the same guy.
And then each time he gets closer to the machine, it delves deeper and deeper into what worries him the most, and that's all the horrible creatures he's met in time and space.
All right, so Aaron, how about you? What's your favorite scene?
I think it's the scene where the Doctor is they've ordered food, and like the Doctor's lying sick and everything, and he's trying to recover, and the guards enter with the food, and Joe and the Doctor kind of pop up, and we suddenly realize that the Doctor isn't really that close to death. He's actually doing pretty good.
Oh, I'm doing splendidly this morning, Joe. How are you?
Yeah. So it's just like, hey.
The old I'm sick, bring in the guard routine. All right, Thomas, how about you?
My favorite scene is when Joe manages to wrestle that gun out of the dude's hand and basically turn the entire situation around on her own. Like, just the cops, the guards and that burst in after she's managed that, and that gives them the opening to actually, at least temporarily, restore it. And then she's even kind of pissy to them about it. It's like, there you go. Just fucking did your job for you.
There you go. I've gift wrapped them for you.
You can say thank you.
Now you can just charge in and take all the credit, because...
Because this little blonde girl just did everything for you all of a sudden all in one go. Even wounded one of the prisoners, I believe, didn't she?
Yeah, it seems like when she was trying to get the gun out of a guy's hand, it went off, and you see a
Shot
guy
him in the leg or something, yeah.
Yeah, a guy fall over.
I wasn't sure if it shot them in the leg or shot her in the leg, because she was limping after that.
No, it definitely shot one of them. Because I believe I saw one of those guy that got shot crumble down, too.
Yeah, and then she, fires off a few more times as warning shots and stuff.
Be great to parody that scene. She's firing off warning shots and kills 5 people in ricochets. All right, Tim.
I was really amused by the scene where the doctor and the brigadier go to meet the Chinese consular, and the doctor starts speaking in perfect Chinese, and the brigadier becomes the third wheel, and he's just standing there like, yeah, yes.
Oh, bother.
Yeah, so let the grown-ups talk, little boy.
The thing is, it wasn't normal Chinese that they were talking. It wasn't Mandarin and it wasn't Cantonese. It was a obscure, semi-obscure Chinese rural dialect, which is, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so am I. Because they mention it by name in the thing.
Yeah, it's spoken in the southern Fujian province. And I'm trying to remember. Because I remember looking all this stuff up when we were doing this, and I'm like,
just making sure that they were actually being authentic.
Hokkien, I think, maybe?
Hokkien, yes, Hokkien.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the southern half of the Fujian province are descended from these one people that have this particular dialect. They were considered barbarians back in the early Han era. And eventually they got, brought into the Chinese fold and everything, but they kept their traditions and their language. And
well, that's pretty cool.
I think a lot of them went off and were the original founders of Taiwan.
Oh. Of course, the funny thing is the only reason they used that dialect is because that was the dialect of the woman who played Chin Li. And she had to do all the... Apparently, in the process of having to do all the translating, they ended up just simplifying a lot of shit so John Pertwee could actually get through it.
Yeah, John Pertwee was not a great one to do complicated lines. I know, that's why they reversed the polarity of the neutron flow came in, was because that rolled off the tongue rather well, and he could say it, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. And it was easy for him to remember, but he had a lot of trouble with technobabble.
Yeah.
Which, is pretty common these days in any science fiction show. I mean, Star Trek itself took it to new heights. But yeah, the thing is, when we see the Doctor in Talons of Wang Chiang, which is I think the next time we see him use Chinese, he's speaking Mandarin. So it's just and I love the fact that he identifies the man by his name as being Hokkien.
Yeah.
And just immediately goes into that, and that was beautiful. I don't know Hokkien. I know a little bit of Mandarin, not a lot. So when Tom Baker talked, I could tell some of what he was saying. I don't know Hokkien at all, and I don't know Cantonese at all, so I'm like, I had no idea what the hell he was saying.
Yeah.
All right. Whose was that we just did?
Mine.
Okay, so it's me. All right. That was, by the way, that was on my favorite scenes list as well, Tim, but I have another one. And that was the one where the Doctor is lying down, just having recovered. And while they've ordered food, it hasn't arrived yet. And Joe, I think, brings the Doctor a cracker or something. And they wind up splitting it. And the Doctor starts telling Joe a story.
Oh, that's a little bit later, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's after they spill this breakfast on the floor, and Joe's like, "Oh, well, there's a
But
cracker
there's still some bits here, and we still have some water.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he starts telling the story, and they start drifting off into the next scene, and the doctor's still telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
And and then they eventually stop the story. It's like, oh, I actually wanted to hear how that ended. Okay.
The Third Doctor was always one for stories too, once in a while.
Least favorite scene. Matt.
Least favorite scene. Oh, actually, you know what? I have a good one. So how lame is it how quickly Mike Yates escaped? As we were mentioning before, his ability to be unstoppable. His entire escape from the Master and all of his cronies is to rip his rope bindings, and there's only one guy there to watch things, and he just manics him and runs.
Yeah.
Not the brightest.
Whoever decided how to keep an eye on Mike was a complete and total doofus. And it's probably the Master's plan, so yeah, the Master failed again.
Yeah.
Underestimating humans.
I guess it's a case if he made one of the prisoners do it rather than one of the hired mercenaries that he'd got.
Apu? You let Apu watch him? I thought he could handle it. He couldn't handle a glass of raspberry schnapps.
All right. Aaron, how about you? Your least favorite scene?
The scene that made me roll my eyes was the exact scene that I described before, where the doctor's like, if you blow up the world, you're going to blow up with it. And I was like, oh, really?
Again.
We're going to do this again? This is the solution to this problem? Okay. I was just disappointed. That's what really kind of took me out of it.
All right. Thomas?
I'm just gonna go with one that I thought of that it's not so much like there's probably something that I didn't like more, but this is just it's probably a nitpick, but the fact that we see that the Master is gonna get away from the explosion, I would have kind of preferred to leave that ambiguous. So when he calls the Doctor on the phone at the end, it's kind of like, oh shit, he's still around.
I'm still here,
he could
I
have very
escaped,
easily been
bye-bye.
killed off.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim?
I didn't really care for the way the first prisoner of the Keller device is killed off at the end so randomly. By the Doctor just says, "Oh, I'm gonna run you over." That's it. I thought
The Master.
the Master. I'm sorry.
I don't think the
My
Doctor
tongue
ran
is
him
slippery
over.
tonight.
He could have at least tissue compressed him. Come on.
Yeah. Or something. Anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I have to bitch at the planning of them escorting the missile. Okay. You escorting a goddamn weapon of mass destruction. One that's been pretty much banned by the Geneva Convention and all kind of weapons treaties thereafter. It's a fucking illegal missile of doom, and you assign one truck with, 2 people in it and 4 guys on motorcycles. Yeah, no.
At least the guys on motorcycles weren't trying to play card games.
It's just
Also,
absolutely, stupid.
just the fact, why do you plan to get rid of your evil missile at the same time as a peace conference?
That too. This would be the absolute last time you want to draw attention to the fact that you're traveling with a missile through the countryside.
I guess you could argue that might be why there's like limited. Granted, there is like that when the master's overhearing them, you hear that the guy on the other end bitching that like, why the hell are you using only a handful of people? That's a bit.
And it's like, so nobody notices. No.
No, you keep that thing extra tight right now, and then as soon as things are over, then and you have the units, then you move it.
You know, in the history of Doctor Who, anytime unit moves a missile in a convoy, shit happens.
Anytime unit has any kind of convoy, shit happens.
I guess the funny thing is you even like I was gonna make the argument, like the kind of joke argument of, well, they probably didn't have the budget for it, even though apparently they went well over budget for this one.
Oh yeah, the director got banned from ever making Doctor Who again.
And it's amazing because they didn't really have that many special effects.
Yeah, but what caused them to go over was the helicopters in the last couple episodes.
Jeez.
But yeah, just like it's like when you think about it, they could have just, if they had like spare uniforms, they could have seen if like just anyone that was hanging around the set could have just like been there to just get shot. Or something, just like in the back of a truck.
Yeah, well,
or
you
whatever
can do that on a show like this because it's a children's show, therefore you don't use blood. So you're not going to have, ketchup packets exploding on somebody as they're falling over.
Yeah. I mean, like, apparently in a bunch of the shots in the prison when units arrives there to take control of the prison again, a lot of the prisoners were just the director and like whoever they could just grab.
Well,
they
there
didn't have the shots yet.
The thing is, though, even if you're just grabbing somebody, you have to pay them. That's SAG.
Yeah.
SAG says you have to pay a non-speaking role a certain wage, and you have to pay a speaking role a certain wage. That's why certain actors try to get at least one line of dialogue into a scene, so they'll get paid speaking wage, which is, by the way, a lot higher than non-speaking wage. That was something the cyber controller wanted very much for in Tomb of the Cybermen. He argued and got speaking wage, even though the voice thing was going through like this. But he had to move the mouth flaps in time with the speech. And so in his mind, that constitutes speaking, and he managed to sell that to the Actors Guild.
Well, he does have to make it look realistic, and if he doesn't know the lines, he can't do it very well.
He did get to use his own voice in Attack of the Cybermen.
Well, that's because all of them were suited up with modules, so it wasn't that hard to do anymore.
Yeah, I'm thinking though that the BBC used to budget shit in blocks. So
yeah.
It's quite possible that it wasn't this production that was running over budget, or this production ran over budget, but this particular production might have had a very tight budget for, like, say the Axos.
Block had a really tight budget, and everything got screwed up because of it.
The Exos of the next one had to have a spaceship made and alien costumes made, and that may have, run into their budget pretty hard.
Might cost some extra costumes and props that were needed for future episodes, yeah.
Well, no, it was just the fact that this was the one. It's like, we know we're going to need budget for this, budget for this, budget for this. And they said, yeah, we're just only going to give you this tiny little budget. And you're going to make a completely like 3 locations. Here's what you get for extras. You're not going past this. And then the director called in helicopters. Because, okay, what do we have coming up? We have Claws of Axos, Ship, Aliens, the Daemons, custom costumes for the Daemons.
Multiple.
And then Colony in Space, where you're going to need a set. You need the TARDIS interior for the first time in a long time. And then I can't remember if there was... No, I think they were all humans on there.
Oh,
But
there were aliens in a colony in space, yeah.
So you'd need alien costumes. You would need the colony itself, the set design, whatever. So a lot of that stuff was. Remember the fact that the reason that they started to do these, they did the Doctor on Earth, was as a budget saving process.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly they had all these aliens and sets to make, and they're just like, no, the Terror of the Autons we can get through with just the Autons. We
cheap,
can
they're just
reuse
made out
those.
of simple plastic. They don't even need to be
And
intricate.
the Mind of Evil is going to be a completely conventional 6-parter. So you're not going to need much budget for that, and we're going to save all of this season's budget for those 3 serials.
And then all of a sudden, Mind of Evil just blew the budget out of the water.
Well, I don't know how far they went over budget, but I know they did.
They
go
went.
over budget.
Well, yeah, it was definitely like so. Yeah, it is so bad that partly because they went over budget is why the director of this never did anything
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, this is not a movie. You can't just work out of budget.
And the interesting thing is, it says that Barry Letts is the one that banned him, but I almost wonder if that was like the BBC.
Probably Barry Letts with the BBC breathing down his neck told him.
Yeah.
Well, Barry Letts was the showrunner at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the producer, yeah.
Yeah, but we're saying that maybe it wasn't totally his choice because he might have actually really liked the episode and probably got a lot of attention.
Anyway, I believe that's all of our scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, did I actually give one?
I think that was yours, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to final thoughts.
Yep. Hut two. So let me first, my overall thought, the strands run long in the story arcs in this one, but I feel like they tied together nicely by the final act. The major players all did 100% really good jobs. It's only a shame that I haven't been able to see it in color yet, because from what I've seen of the images, it looks really nice.
Out of curiosity, I have digi-copies of this, and I have the DVD, so
I might be able to loan it at some time and have a look.
Oh yeah, I'll loan you that. I'm just going to see if my digi-copies are color or black and white.
Anyway, next.
Oh no, my digi-copies are all black and white.
Alright, I did actually pretty much enjoy this story. Like I said, it's fairly subdued, it's very earthbound. There aren't too many crazy aliens running around or anything like that, but they still played off it very well. The characters, the villainous humans were done very well. Joe, of course, was enjoyable, and the Doctor. And even seeing Unit in action was kind of cool, so... again, yeah, I enjoyed it.
In action and being useful.
Yeah. Yep, so that's my thoughts on that.
Alright. Thomas?
After the first time I watched this quickly became one of my favorites of the old Who serials I have seen so far. Emphasis on so far. I don't know where it would rank if I ever get around to seeing all the surviving ones, but yeah.
I haven't even seen all the surviving ones. I've seen a good deal of them, but nowhere near all.
Just generally, the premise was very interesting. The way everything played out, I was very invested in. Generally, I remember Arc of Infinity had a lot of problems with. I didn't like how they handled those two plot threads coming together, but I feel this one did that way better. So yeah, generally I really like this one.
All right. Tim?
I thought the main bonuses of this story were the Doctor, Unit, and Joe, and the fact that they were all given interesting things to do. Where the story sort of petered out for me was in the balancing of the three plot lines, but it was made up for by the Master. So.
All right. Is that it, Tim?
Yep.
All right. So this episode is good, but it does have some flaws. A lot of it is the writing. The Master's theme does not make a lot of sense. The directing is okay, but nothing great. The acting is all top notch. Everybody who was acting in this did a good job. And special effects were virtually non-existent, even to the point that the machine teleporting was doing the wavy line effects, which would later become the trademark of Blake Seven's teleport. Which
simple,
is a
simple
fairly,
in-camera tricks.
That's basically using a oscillation wave to adjust the picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard to do. And I think it's one that they've had since like the 50s. So
Something like
it
that,
was
yeah.
nothing special, really. So other than that, there was really nothing to say special effect-wise other than practical, combat effects. But the BBC had been doing that for years, so nothing out of the ordinary there. Why it went so over budget, I'm not sure, unless their budget was absolutely shoestring. But really, there's not much to say for this. It's okay, probably good, but I don't really think it's anything special. The ratings. All right, so Matt, you get first rating.
Like you said, good but not overly special, so I'm going to give this one at least a 4.
4 flat?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thomas? Or wait, Aaron was next, right?
Aaron.
Yep.
Sorry, I
Jumping
thought...
in.
Yes, I did. I thought it was Thomas, Aaron, Tim, because I'm on the spreadsheet, not the document.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4 as well.
4 flat. Thomas?
I'm honestly going to give this a 4.5.
0.5 from Thomas. Tim?
I will give this a 4.5.
Here's the question.
The 4s are the 4.5s, Randy.
Yes, we don't have Bill here to give it whatever rating I don't to rebalance us at 4.2.5. Because we're literally doing the same thing that we did last time. I'm going to have to give it a 4.0. Which will make it 4.2 instead of 4.2.5 or 4.3. And that's 4.2 even. So that is going to take us and put this episode... right.
While you're calculating that, one extra scene that I really liked that we didn't mention, the Master facing his own fear at the machine.
Which was the doctor laughing at him.
The doctor laughing maniacally, which kind of hints to me that maybe the Master is constantly afraid that maybe someday the doctor will one-up him.
Well, the doctor always one-ups him, but
in a more malicious way.
Well, I think the fact that he sees the doctor one-upping him is being malicious in his own mind.
Possibly, yeah. But even more so in that particular instance. Anyway.
So the Mind of Evil comes in at number 67 out of 218. Putting it still in the top tiers. Last week's episode, Terror of the Autons came in at number 58. So it's only 9 places away.
We'll see what Bill's review of it is if he does come back to review it.
Yep, it is on par with The Mind Robber, Death and the Queen, The End of the Line, The Power of Krull, Hellbent, Destiny of the Daleks, Frontier in Space. It is not as good as Terror of the Autons, The Unquiet Dead, The Last Christmas, and better than Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, Curse of Fatal Death, and Mummy on the Orient Express. So 67 of 218. Anybody have anything else to say about The Mind of Evil?
I just remembered something that might have gotten over budget as well. The missile was a legit army-loaned missile.
Oh.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, they probably had like security up the wazoo on that thing then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that depends. Depends. If it was an older missile that they removed the warhead from and replaced with a fake warhead, the security might not have been as bad.
That greatly depends though. So that could have possibly answered some of it too.
I also have
And
a
by
question.
the way, that almost did come out. By the way, is my worst scene as well. Is the fact that they had to make it both nuclear with a gas warhead.
It's nuclear,
I mean,
but it also has a
yeah.
gas, a nerve agent gas.
It's like, seriously,
Facepalm.
choose your WMD, people.
I do have a question. The monster inside the machine, that was not a Dalek, was it?
No,
Okay.
that was something
'Cause
else.
I remember...
It actually feeds off of negative emotions. That's how it grew to what it was.
It was some kind of neural parasite.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I mean, it was kind of
Dalek-like.
blobby-ish, and there is like an eye on it. Like a
Mhm.
single eye there.
But no, it's just this nasty outer space thingy.
Yeah.
Master
I mean,
just must have had one in his TARDIS or something.
It could have been a reuse of the old Dalek slug thing, or it could have been a
If they
reuse
had
of
one.
the Nestine consciousness.
That too.
But either way, it was supposed to be a completely unique alien.
Mm-hmm. So that's about it.
I think so. Matt, do you want to put up stuff and give us a blurb about how they can contact us? Because Bill usually does that.
Bill usually does that
leave
because
me-
he has something in front of him and you don't. Yeah. All
Yes,
right. So
I
I'll
do
pull
not,
up the
'cause
image.
He deleted the paragraph that had that stuff on it.
All right. So
Bill,
thank you all
what were
very
you
much for
thinking?
watching us tonight. You can catch us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast, Twitch at Unearthly Podcast, Twitter on Unearthly Pod, Facebook at Unearthly Podcast, and Patreon. And if you really like our show and would like to help out a little bit financially, you can also join us at Patreon at Unearthly Podcast.
All right.
So yeah.
So next week, we continue watching Unit battling the Master all through Season 8 in the Claws of Axos, written by Bob Baker and Dave Martin. And if you don't know those names, think K9. And starring Jonathan Pertwee as the Doctor, Katie Manning as Joe Grant, Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier, and Roger Delgado as the Master. We will see you next week.
Affirmative. Good night.
Good night.
Night.